We're talking sports right now. Major League Baseball expanding its partnership with Boardroom. Joining us right now to discuss this and so much more in the world of sports. We'll talk a little bit of basketball, what's going on. Boardroom co-founder and CEO Rich Kleiman is here, and CC Sabathia is here, MLB veteran, MLB special assistant to the commissioner and vice president of the Players Alliance Board. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Let's start. We want to talk about 100 things, but let's just talk about the partnership that you've assembled now with the MLB and what that means.
Yes. Well, we've extended this partnership, and I think the goal of it in the beginning was for us to kind of work with Major League Baseball and creating activations and curating curating rooms and telling stories. Year two is going to be furthering that partnership, creating more activation, more storytelling. We have some dedicated moments that we're going to do at Fanatics Fest, at the Major League Baseball Awards, at Major League Baseball All-Star Game. And I think it's just a reflection on what Major League Baseball is seeing as the league grows and seeing how important the cultural relevance in sports is, which is what we bring.
Where do you think, can we talk about licensing? Or not say licensing, I should say TV rights and what's going on there. Do you have a view?
Do I have a view overall?
On Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're in a good place, to be honest. I think you see ratings are up, attendance is up, merchandise sales are up. The league has never appeared to be as global as they are now. They have global stars. They just went to Japan, and you could see the impact that they had. So if I was Major League Baseball, I'd be very happy with where they are.
What kind of deal do you think ultimately happens?
I hope it's a good deal. I mean, like Rich said, no, seriously, because, like Rich said, the game is in such a good spot. The attendance is up. The pitch clock has worked. Yep. People are back in the ballpark. Definitely. You can get into a game in 2.5, 2:45. So I think it works for TV right now.
What about breaking it up though over either various different streamers and network? I mean, it's going to be a sort of, and we've seen this now in football and other things.
Yeah.
Sort of a hodgepodge of places. Do we think that's ultimately good for sports?
I mean, the way I'm consuming sports, I mean, it kind of, it's good for me.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm a huge sports fan. I watch a lot of NBA. I watch a lot of NFL. And even with the Yankees, I'm a huge Yankee fan. And I have to watch Amazon Prime on Wednesday. So, you consume sports the way you can. And, walking with your phone and doing whatever you can, it makes it easy.
I think it's trying to find it.
The frustrating sometimes is trying to find it.
It's frustrating to try to find out what's where.
Because it used to be, you're going to,
Yeah, but I think it's actually, great for sports. I mean, I think what happens on these long seasons especially is the fans have to kind of learn what the stakes are and have to understand what it is that's making them tune in. And I think when you see what the NBA did with the in-season tournament, when you see what they do with the play-in, being able to create these little moments that you can storytell around, where you can create a new narrative. So if you're Major League Baseball and you break up the season and you create moments out of certain games, certain road trips, you make a moment out of the All-Star game, I think it allows fans to understand the importance of things again.
Same with Japan.
Same with Japan, yeah.
Starting the season,
the pitch clock
London series.
I wonder what pitchers used to be doing, seriously. I mean, they're screwing around so much. But then
it's not the pitchers, it's the hitters. If you think about it,
they back out and everything.
It's the hitters getting the ball.
Now I see some pitchers I can tell it's getting in their head that they don't. How would you have handled it?
Oh, I pitch quick. I was always ready, and it's a lot of the hitters backing out. Nomar Garcia-Parra with the batting
glove. With the
checking with the umpire.
Oh, it's not tight enough. No, it's too tight.
It was always the hitters. It was always the hitters. So
always the hitters.
So having having a pitch clock,
it's a huge win.
It's easier for a pitcher to get into a rhythm.
So
hitters want to call time and do whatever they can to trying to ice you.
I will say though, back to your question of streaming, Major League Baseball is ahead of the game in terms of what they've been doing since 2002 from Major League Baseball TV and streaming for all intents and purposes. So I think like the technology and what advancements the league was ahead of the game on has always been something that they've been known for. And now I think when you start to see what Major League Baseball can do from a streaming perspective, I think you'll see that same type of creativity.
Hey, Rich, what you talk about with storytelling and really building up the players, I think that's the key with all of these sports because, look, it's what we care about with the Olympics. I don't know any of these players at the Olympics for the most part, but I care about each and every one of them while I'm watching because of the job NBC does while they're storytelling with this. I think it's great for the players to build this up, probably great for the leagues, but ultimately, does it give the players much more leverage over the leagues when it's a league of superstars?
I mean, listen, I think that's an argument that you've heard throughout time with the NBA. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's the NBA stars, I think, starting with the Larry Bird and Magic Johnson rivalry to Michael Jordan, and obviously today, like we know NBA stars all over the world. It's great for the league, and it's great for the sport. And the reason you see these streaming numbers in the NBA, I mean, these media deals in the NBA, has a lot to do with the star power, right? So I think the reality is when Major League Baseball starts to see attendance growing and starts to see merchandise sales growing, and they have stars like they have in Ohtani and Soto, and you see the story and what's happening with my New York Mets right now. Yep. You have to commit to storytelling around that. You have to explain to people why that's important. And when you can connect with a certain star in a certain city, that's always going to be great for us.
But I think that was always, in baseball, was the starters, right? It was you going to watch Roger Clemens or Pedro Martinez or whoever else, and I think we kind of lost that in baseball where, you know, you don't get those matchups anymore where you're going to the ballpark to watch starting pitching.
Can I ask you just a broader sort of sports investment question?
Yes.
It seems like everybody's investing in sports in all sorts of different ways and all sorts of new sports as well, as if there is sort of an unlimited volume of interest in sports and that it's a great live experience. We all know that. However, the question is sort of like, how far can you pull that rubber band? Is it a rubber band? And so when you start to think about all these other sports that are now coming into all sorts of forms of media and the storytelling that's going to be required, the cost of that storytelling to really actually be able to elevate those athletes, and then the attention span that everybody has, is there sort of is there a ceiling on what that even looks like as we get into sort of more and more of this?
Well, listen, I think obviously the reality is every one of these are not going to work. Do I think that every one of them has an opportunity to work depending on the business model? Yes. Do I think that the sport and the fan bases and the quality of talent in each sport deserves an opportunity to have a major sports league? 1,000%. If you create a business model that tries to rival the NFL or the NBA, then you may fail. But if you understand that each one of those sports has a business model that may work for them, then I think you can bring that to life. If you look at Love Volleyball, for instance, Love Volleyball, a company we invested in, it was their first goal to invest in the clubs all over the country, right? And to build that grassroots presence up and to build a brand up. And then they launched their league. They had a vision for this model. If you look at Tomorrow Golf, right? A totally different model that I'm sure Cece could talk to. But I think that each one of them have to look at what their fans and what their community wants out of what that model is. But of course, the short answer is every one of these will not work. No.